SonarFeed! SonarFeed is loading. Let's go. Oh, all right, I think we're here.
We're on the internet?
Yeah, it sure looks like it.
Hello, can you hear us?
The audio does work. You can hear it recursively.
Oh, they can hear us. We're on the air.
Cool. Good job, Mark.
There we go.
Our fans are demanding a refund.
Just turn off this real quick. John, the second you
absolutely
actually start
give you a
paying
refund.
for anything here, then maybe we'll give you a refund.
How does that work? Also, by the way, we chanted no refunds for the away supporters the other day. So, sorry to SonarFeed viewers. But welcome here to SonarFeed episode, where are we at? 255.
Turn your mic on, Tom.
It was on. I'll just not talk. If you were a technical difficulty, which one would you be?
I like you're wearing the black.
Did you hear that?
You want me to unplug it and plug it back in again?
On Mickey's shoulders here. They're like dripping down on the back.
Lovely.
Anyway.
Yes. Should have gone with the gray shirt, apparently.
Maybe we should let Mickey talk while we try and solve this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can people hear
have
me?
nothing in here, so.
Do you want to maybe tell people what we're doing?
Hello. We're down here at Renton. SonarFeed episode 255 at the Berliner, downtown Renton, ahead of the curve.
Ahead of the curve.
And we are trying to get our show up and running, and I think we're about 65% of the way there. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Mickey Turner, attorney at ESQ on the Twitters, and we have a special guest to my left.
Sean Wise, how you doing, everybody? That's Wise Punk on Twitter.
You are a punk.
Send your hate my way.
And to my right, and I think your mic is now working.
Tom Piero, a.k.a. Bougie Hooli. And to the far right, politically and here on the show.
Yes.
Hashtag.
Which one of those is true?
Hashtag fake fucking
Actually
news.
fake news. What's your name again?
Fuck you.
Cool. That's Mark Nestoroff, a.k.a. didn't delete his account yet because Tony Alfaro still hasn't gotten the hat trick.
Who?
It's coming, though. Seriously, what are you going to do if that guy drops 3 on somebody? If the Sounders win out for the rest of the season, which, let's just be clear, it's totally going to happen at this point, right?
Feels like it.
They'll get to the point where they'll be like, who should take these penalties? Like, every time there's a penalty, you're like, we could let Ladero take these penalties or Tony Alfaro. It's going to happen, Mark. Something absurd is going to happen, and you are going to have to delete Twitter.
Were you worried during the Galaxy game when it was like 3-0, 4-0, and Alfaro could have subbed in and gotten his hat trick?
I was at a wedding with no reception, so I had no idea what was going on.
Alfaro could have come in. All bets were off.
Was he even in the 18? I may be
Bingham
completely off
wasn't
on that.
stopping anything.
I think the LA defense was enjoying some of our good weed before the match because they looked completely stoned.
And they are really expensive.
Yeah. From what I understand, they're the most expensive backline in.
They are correct.
What? I don't know if we tweeted that we're live on SonarFeed. Someone
I
could
can
probably
do
do that.
this.
No, I tweeted today earlier.
I'm
To
tweeting
John
right
Ryan.
now.
We were trying to get John Ryan to come here, but he'd rather go do pull tabs than come out and ball with us here on SonarFeed tonight. He's on the yellow microphone.
Is it on?
Sean, is your microphone on?
I thought so. It says that it's
Oh,
on,
now I hear
on
you.
position.
Now I hear you.
Cool. Anyway,
Maybe I just need to get it
so
closer.
we're here, episode 255, talking some Sounders, some more Sounders, some things about that stupid yellow team in Ohio, currently in Ohio, excuse me. Some S2 things we'll touch on tonight. Some rain action. Well, probably, unfortunately, irrelevant of the weather and fires and such. I don't know. Maybe we'll make jokes about Mark.
I mean, that's expected.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I think we can just dive right in.
Yeah.
And maybe what we should do, because Sean, you've been on the show before.
No, I've maybe sat in for a couple
for
minutes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe give the viewers, listeners, etc., a brief synopsis of your deal.
3 or 5 seconds.
Of my background here. So yeah, Sean Wise, old man, love to travel with the Sounders around the world, and I work in print on a daily basis. So I sell a lot of paper. I
Like
might be
literally.
Michael Scott from The Office type
Yeah.
of situation.
You're literally Michael
Veteran
Scott.
and proud Coug.
Go Cougs.
I'm surrounded by cougs and a spider.
Yeah. That's correct.
That's acceptable, I guess.
Sorry, what university did you go to that has the spider?
That is Richmond Spiders, of
Richmond.
course.
Tom, of course, went to Rutgers.
Well, we all know that. You just can't take the jersey out of the boy, right? Go down the shore.
I did not.
He was all about the GTL.
I went to the same school as Brian Meredith, which means no one high-fived me. So it started early back in the 90s. And, yeah. So anyway, so Sean, friend of the show, friend of Sounders Land, ECS, and so on, who graced us with his presence. And we were like, we are definitely recruiting him. There are 1 or 2 other people who have threatened to show up here tonight that we might grab at some point, including the corporate overlord you can trust, Max Aquino.
Grabbing's not appropriate, Tom.
That's true. Grabbing is not appropriate. Thanks for the clarity. Great. I'm probably going to get in so much trouble on the internet for feigning grabbing hosts. I'm screwed. Anyway, let's have a fun show.
Yep.
We can probably just dig right into a particular Sounders match this weekend, which had amazing highlights, like quotes from people saying things along the lines of, "Wow, this is super familiar for Ziggy."
Oh, that's
Down
Was it Owen
a
Wilson
Galaxy
voice?
game where he's down 2-0, and I was like, "Ooh."
Was it Owen Wilson voice? Wow.
It wasn't.
Wow.
It was Joey.
Wow. Oh.
It was Joey from Blossom.
Whoa! Whoa!
It was that level. No. There was some pretty good hijinks on Saturday afternoon.
yeah.
How'd day drinking go for you?
Oh.
We know how it went for Mickey.
It did not go well for me.
I did
was
not
not in
drink
commission on
anything
Sunday.
until after the game.
Wise.
Because last match, I drank all of the cans of wine.
Oh, how about a can of wine?
I mean, $10 later. I think after the one that I had that was called Murph. I have a friend whose cat in high school whose cat said Murph, Murph all the time. Like that's what came out of this cat, and that's the only thing I can think of when I see these cans of wine. Needless to say, the Chardonnay not my favorite. The Rosé, yes, I will
Was this
accept
in the stadium?
in the stadium. I will accept all of your cans of Rosé. No, Saturday afternoon was great.
How much is a can of rosé at the
$10.
CenturyLink? $10? Is that a 4-ounce can?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's like 5.5.
like a little Dole
pretty
can?
small.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's horrible.
yeah. It's not a good like efficiency. It's high on the alcohol efficiency
Fair enough.
level,
Fair enough.
But from a cost efficiency standpoint, not
Not
great.
so much.
And it's always
great.
pinkies out from the size of the can.
Duh.
Yeah,
Okay.
like-
Yeah.
It's rosé,
saying.
you know. Yeah.
But you gotta hold like 3 though. You gotta have them lined up.
Isn't that just standard?
Well, yeah.
Did
Anyway,
did you make a?
You're about to say something silly, aren't you?
Yeah. did you make a can sword out of? Have you seen?
You
that?
want him to make the wizard pull?
Yeah,
out of
wizard
cans?
pull. That's what it is. Wizard
I wonder
pull.
where this is going.
no. I can confidently say no.
There is duct tape down at the Tifo supplies.
There is a lot of Gorilla Tape.
Duct tape. We don't call it Gorilla Tape.
Okay. So anyway, Sounders victorious yet again. There's a lot of W's happening at this time.
My
There
Twitter
are more
name keeps getting
Ws.
longer.
I saw that.
Yeah.
A whole lot of hyphens and W's.
A lot of
and it's like
Ws.
when you look in any like soccer score app and you see like form, there's parentheses with 5
yes.
units of measurement. We're over that.
I like that.
That's kind of cool. In fact,
first
you're
time
over
ever.
it almost twice without any L's. So
The first time they've ever been over that.
it's
metric.
kind of nuts. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So all in all, Saturday, I mean, felt good start to finish. I think people came into the game feeling fairly confident, frankly irrelevant of Zlatan, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Even without Zlatan, I think people felt pretty good about this match.
My thought was it's going to be about a 4-1 victory ahead of time, just because there was, they were missing 5 of their top starters, but they still had a few guys who could cause some trouble.
I mean, they had the wrong Boateng.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
And they had Kamara who can cause some damage.
Yeah.
And Boateng is fast. That's about all I can say really about Boateng, because his passing on the day was just atrocious. He would
Not great.
he would dribble and then pass it right to a
Bingham
sounder.
was just throwing himself around the area. Like there are more balls where he's just like actually flying like 6 to 10 feet at a time, and I'm like, maybe play some defense ish. I don't know.
It seemed like as soon as Marshall got that first goal so early, that all they wanted to do was throw stuff forward now. You could see them start to push immediately to try and get an equalizer.
Well,
and it just opened up the shape.
And the best part about this, and Eileen, who's hiding out here in the audience at the Berliner, pointed out that it was on the Spanish language broadcast as well. Both of the broadcasts actually focused on Chad Marshall in the area on the corner.
Yes.
It was really interesting.
Twelman called it.
You know, you didn't notice it at the game. I was like, well, watch Marshall do something here, because Chad Marshall and corners. And, short corner, a couple things happen, ball goes back out. He had 2 guys sort of hanging off of him poorly.
Right.
And Romney was one.
Saracen.
Yeah. And, that was a deadly goal. But both of them clearly focused on Chad Marshall when you watch the footage, and you're like, wow, TV called it. TV gets a lot of stuff wrong.
And they couldn't stop him.
Yeah. And that second one that he hit off of the crossbar, like full speed.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Chad Marshall's clearly having a good time. Got a little haircut and had a good time.
It was nice to see them get a good.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to see them get a good goal, for an early goal after
sure.
they played really well the last 3 games at least.
Yep.
Minnesota, and I'm forgetting who we played last week.
We'll just set the tone.
Yeah.
And then the stat that had come up a little later was Sounders are 18-0-3 win-loss draw under Schmetzer at home, I think it was, when they score first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, that's a lot of winning. Like, you could even have said if it was a little more middle, like a lot more draws, you'd have been like, okay, whatever. But that's pretty ridiculous. And now 19? Like, that's nuts. And frankly, once you start to get that far ahead, as they did, it's easy to let up a goal. And there were probably 4 solid mistakes, if not more, that, they were just skying balls to Galaxy. And you're like, the net
Roland
is,
had that one.
the net is not
very good
31 feet tall, thankfully. But yeah, it started early, and I think just set the tone. And I think even when the Sounders were in that sort of losing, non-winning, whatever you want to call it, run, even when they would score, though, you were kind of like, whatever. This, you're like, welp, got a goal. Sorry, other team. Because you just knew what was going to come next. And it was really cool to see just top to bottom. You know, you had a new player come in last week in Brad Smith, get injured. Nuhu is back. Not at all like, you know, playing for his job or anything like that, really. But played a great game. Is on a yellow forever right now. Like, he either gets no more yellows or gets suspended for the remainder of the season.
Isn't there a good? There's good behavior.
No, I think it's once you get to 5, you don't ever ratchet back or something like that. And he's at 7 or something, isn't he? I think there's a number that once you cross it, there is no more good behavior bonus. In the window. Yeah, it's the...
You could still get it back once you go before the next set.
I don't think that that's going to happen.
We are talking MLS rules here,
Yeah.
though, so everything's up in the air.
And it was great because Geiger was just like, whatever, guys, just keep playing. It's cool.
No
Did
yellow
I
cards.
see correctly? Yeah, there were no
yellow
cards.
cards.
You were like,
Huh.
I don't think there's
watched
anything
the game
like
as
overly
well.
outrageous.
There were a couple things where you're like, that's probably yellow.
And what? He gave him 5 seconds of extra time?
Yeah, well, that was
We definitely should
referee's
talk about that
discretion.
because it's pretty funny. But, you know, from that Marshall goal on, the possession wasn't great. The passing was sub 80,
Yeah, for the first time.
and it didn't matter. Like,
Except for since he's passed shit.
but it was one of those things where it was like, when you're going to connect on a pass or be consistent, it was the ones that mattered. But the ones where they were like, I don't know what to do right now, whatever. And they were playing a high line, LA was. They were clearly focusing on Alonso, I thought, at least, in that first half. Like, it just felt like he was ending up in spots where there were 3 people in his lanes, and he ended up having to, you know, dribble the ball back himself or find another way to do something. And all in all, like, some of the other metrics, the duels and whatnot, were pretty even. So it was almost like LA focused on one thing that they did a decent job at, and then everything else they were absolutely atrocious.
And I'm sure Siggy was, you know, bringing that in as the coaching thing, is we got to shut down Alonso in the midfield to stop all the passing and the creation, but it still seemed like we were just tossing some junk together and it kept going in.
Every time. And, you know, there were a couple things, like the Roldan goal, where it was just, oh yeah, the ball's just going to hit me and go in. Like, I just stuck my
just
leg out,
redirected it.
whatever.
Yeah, that was
but
very nice.
Rui Diaz had a pass like that, like on the way out, where he was way back, like Oba style, like he's in the 18, and they just kind of swung a ball at him, and he just kind of sticks his leg out up here and directs it right to whomever was out there ahead of him. And it was like one of those moments, and he's had a few, where you just look at some players and you're like, you can do basically anything with the ball, and it doesn't matter. And, like, had that control. And then I posted something on Twitter about his goal, which he wanted big time.
Yeah.
His pass to himself was an assist.
Yeah.
It was I'm going to pass this ball to that corner, and either I'm going to get it or nobody's going to get it. And not only did he get it, he put it in the far side of the goal.
It was a nice goal.
And you're just like, that's ridiculous. And he had a couple of things the previous match, too, where he got in between 2 defenders. And you could see, not that he gave up, but he just was like, okay, they figured me out right here. I'm just going to wait till next time, like save it till next time. But that guy, man, he's just like clearly thoughtful. He is having fun.
Yes.
Like, you can see the smile on his face. Like, when he missed a couple times, like, for the shots for the brace, he's kind of laughing it off. And he's like, yeah, I did another one.
Yeah.
You know, too far past the post. And that's super cool. Like, a guy making some serious bank. You know, not necessarily taking himself too seriously. Pretty neat. He could have had
He
a
could
hat trick.
definitely had a hat trick. One to the left and one to the right.
But all in all, man, the goals were all fantastic. The vibe in the stadium was great.
Yeah, it was a packed house.
Roldan calling for that shot, like up in the air, just let me chip this in like it's
Yeah.
a FIFA game.
Pretty nuts. Yeah, it was interesting because you're like, wow, you dominated the scoreline, but didn't necessarily have the fundamentally best game. you could have, because there are other games where you win 3-0 and you stomp people at every little statistic, and this was not that match. In fact, it came up at the end. Like, all of a sudden, they had 50-ish% possession and 81% passing, or 80 and change, and I was like, how did you do that? Oh, that's right, you strung 14 of them together on that one play. But no, that was a lot of fun, and
Again,
for
how many times have we seen the Sounders lose a match where they have over 60% possession and over 90% completed passes?
double-digit numbers of times. Where it's like, Alonso, 179 passes connected, and you're like, cool, you should play for Barcelona, and then you lost 2-1.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a really good game, and I think the parts we talked about this pre-show, but the parts to me that were maybe more important to talk about than anything were the first 2 substitutions by the Sounders, which were the most brutally harsh things that I think we could possibly have seen in a match against your mentor, your former coach, whatever.
Arguably second biggest rival.
You're like, oh, we're going to sub in this really badass winger ball control guy who played in La Liga. Oh, and then we're going to bring in a brutal poacher forward that has turned out to be a rock star for the Sounders. You're like, I guess we'll play 4-4-2.
Right.
This seems fun. And you're like, I have a question. And to their credit, I mean, people did ask, but no one really got harsh about it. They were like, were you trying to devastate, Ziggy? Like, there was nothing awkward.
No.
But, I mean, that felt like intentional to me.
Well,
And Brian Schmetzer's a pretty chill guy in a lot of ways, but that felt like I'm carving out a moment here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the substitutions all made sense. I mean, they needed to get Rodriguez, a good half hour of time, because he's just coming back from injury. Made sense to give Ozzy a rest.
Yeah.
And Roldan, you got a rookie who can play for 10 minutes and get a little experience. So that they also happen to humiliate the opponent is just a side benefit, but.
Cool.
They all made sense to me, so it was good to see
great
them all.
subs.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know if that would have been what I'd expect. Maybe one of them, like, you could see happening, or you want to get somebody minutes. But you do the first one, you're like, we are better. And that's not a criticism. You know what I mean? But then you're like, oh, we're going to just keep improving the offense in this game? Okay.
Well, I think it worked out the right way in this situation, because obviously we've got this great lead, and let's bring in the players that are coming off of injury that need a few minutes to get some experience, and likewise, let's get the key players that are a little older off the pitch before they get an injury, before somebody gets a little chippy and takes out Ozzy, and do we lose Ozzy to a groin or a calf injury
Hamstring.
for 4 weeks? Hamstring. Don't say that.
I think he's played every minute that he's been here
May
for.
have come in as a sub.
Didn't he?
one time.
Yeah, didn't he when he
first came
back?
back,
he
came
went in as a sub. But
Yeah.
games he's started, I believe that is the first this season. Because he had played every minute before he went away for the rest in the World Cup break. So,
It's a good luxury to have if you're blowing a team out. Those are the subs I would have made, just generally speaking. So.
like as in the players off or the
both.
Yeah, because you want to brutalize the LA Galaxy.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's the Galaxy.
And give a couple of the older guys a rest. So it was just a great set of subs all the way around.
That's a good posters for the people idea. Just like a big tenderizer. No. Anyway, I don't know if we necessarily learned anything coming out of this match. I think if anything, it was just reconfirming that the bugaboo kind of teams, the ones that are always hanging out behind you, that it didn't matter. Like, they got stomped front to back.
Sounders ain't nobody to fuck with.
Where have you heard that one before?
Places.
Couple spots.
Yeah, I mean the mystique of the Galaxy is gone for all intents and purposes.
Oh,
At least
absolutely.
as far as the Sounders are concerned. LAFC seems to have some trouble with them this year, but as far as
We
we're
should just start
concerned,
calling them Carson.
Yeah.
Carson, yeah, that's a good idea.
Let's just go in on that. I did really enjoy that they absolutely all sat down about 22 minutes into the match. And you heard them kinda during like boom boom clap, like in the silent spots, and then literally not at all after. And
Scoring the
again,
third
like
minute,
middle of the day, lively people. It wasn't brutally hot outside, like pretty lively stadium. You didn't hear them at all after that. And then they all complained on Twitter, which was great. They were like, "Oh, you guys put us up at the Space Needle," and we're like, "You guys know that the better seats in soccer stadiums are higher, like or have an angle." Like,
And
you
actually, it
can
was Rainier
see the
Tower.
match.
It was only Rainier Tower.
Like, good job. Yeah, that was pretty dumb.
They had a good traveling contingent though, so I'll give
They
them
did
that.
a couple hundred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty solid.
That was solid.
Better than the 2 Dallas guys who were there.
Oh,
last
God, no
year.
kidding.
Although, if you're those 2 Dallas guys, you're like, high five me, please.
I remember there was I think last year Vancouver was in Columbus, and there was one Vancouver fan there. I think they either won or tied that game, and they would like show him like cheering. So I was giving props, even if there's only a couple of people traveling, especially to obscure places.
Yeah. All in all, I mean, great takeaways. Like, didn't lose anybody. Nothing stupid really happened.
Nobody's on yellow card accumulation.
Yeah.
That wasn't before.
Well, that wasn't before. Yeah. That's about. I would say let's see what happens with Smith coming back.
Mm-hmm.
They're right now at the point where, probably for the first time this season, they genuinely have like an ideal 11.
Yeah.
Where they actually can play it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's not like Morris is out for good or whatever, but it's like of the 18 where you're like, yep,
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said that Smith is in a long-term injury. He was out there training on, I guess it would have been Friday, a little bit. So sounds like he'll be back for Portland. So that'd be nice. And then aside from that, you got to figure Rodriguez is now basically 90 minutes fit or could, play 60 minutes or something like that. So there'll be a nice battle there with him and Shep.
yeah.
And so aside from Morris, knock on wood, the only other guy who's out is Dempsey.
Who and I had a conversation with Dave Clark at Victory Hot Dogs after the match, and we were talking about that injury, and he's like, "Yeah, that's an injury. Like it's definitely a back thing. We'll see." I mean,
I have no reason to dispute what they're saying. He's not been in
Yeah.
practice. He wasn't in practice on Thursday or Friday, and I wasn't there the previous 2 days. But I guess he was out there. But he was just kind of jogging.
he did
doing
take all the selfies yesterday, though.
Yeah.
You saw the picture of Bread.
I did.
With the y'all
Bread-
wild.
To say Bread was excited. Yeah, what would
She
you
was
say?
probably
So, like,
vibrating when that
if
picture was
excited
taken.
is like a 10, she was like a 416.
The only person she knew she was trying to get signature on, I think.
But good on him. Like, dude is like all in on being a team player.
Yeah, I think that's just where it's at this point. And so they've obviously had a conversation with him. He obviously understands. And there is not much else to say, really, about it at this point.
The checks are still coming in.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
if you had to make a
getting paid
prediction
and-
right now, does he get number 48?
Oh, this year?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so.
I think he gets a goal, yeah.
So you think
So-
is he the Zlatan super sub kind of style? Because I got to tell you,
I
we've
don't
talked
think-
about this before. 70-second Dempsey, I am here for this.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he's starting unless there's an injury. Again, knock on wood on that.
You're like, oh, I guess we'll
Or-
sub out this guy for Clint Dempsey.
Yeah. there's two midweek games left. Yeah.
No, and that sounds like a super fun time.
There's two midweek games left, so there's two places where he could certainly play and start potentially. But aside from that, it's probably super sub Dempsey.
So if Dempsey's super healthy this next week, Brian Schmetzer, that dude legit hates Portland.
Yes.
Maybe if they're at 65, 70.
We should
that's-
message him and
that
see
is
where he's at,
100%,
because if he's
yeah.
not playing, we definitely have a spot for him in the section in the stadium. I'm actually really interested to see Rui Diaz against the rival, because I think he very much gets that concept. And there are players, like big-time players, who don't necessarily get up or down for who you play against. And from what I've seen, like watching some of the highlights and stuff, like he definitely is down for the like, oh, you hate this team? Cool. Which is great.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I'm Portland right now. They're reeling.
Yeah.
And you don't want to play Sounders? No one wants to play Sounders, like, to be clear. But Portland definitely doesn't want to play Sounders right now.
Oh yeah, the Sounders they're going to want to get revenge for that, the home loss.
Yeah.
At that point, it looked like that was going to be a knockout blow.
And we don't have to
playoffs.
worry about Adi.
Yeah. And
So
he's
that's
the one that
cool.
gave the Sounders the most trouble, generally
Yeah.
speaking. So yeah,
There's that.
Yeah. Yeah. That-
but they were complaining about the other guy at
Yeah.
Stumptown Footy, which is the Timbers website. They're crushing
What's a
that
Timbers?
other person quite a bit.
yeah. Well, whatever.
I mean, he's getting age. Like Dempsey, that player is getting up there in age.
Sure.
So
I-
we'll
it's
see.
I've got to say, I've been reminded of many past Portland matches and away matches recently, just from digging around my house and doing cleaning, finding old tickets that I photoshopped from last year, because they had the entire Portland Timbers squad across the top of the ticket. So I made sure to put red circles with a bar across all the different players' faces. So when I walked in and handed them my ticket, it made sure of like, fuck Portland. I think I posted some things on your Facebook page today, Tom, too.
That's never happened.
My favorite two-poll of all time is "Your team is bad and you should feel bad" with Zoidberg on the front of it. Still a great piece of two-poll right there.
It is good. I usually I had just used a image of the section with hashtag Hate Portland Week,
Yeah.
and I was like, no, I'm going with this chalkboard. Portland sucks.
Yep.
It just seems more interesting.
That was the first year that we had the rivalry, and I didn't get tickets to the match, so I was down visiting a friend in Portland, and was at a place called Leisure in Nopo, and they have, of course, the chalkboards in the bathroom. So as the score was going on, I kept writing, "Go Sounders," and people would cross out the Sounders, and then I just write, "Oh, haha, bitch, we won." Just leaving my mark in Portland. And I use green and blue chalk
This
to write
does
that
sound
as well.
like a very Sean thing.
Yeah,
Haha, bitch.
How about during the September, the call-ups now?
I don't want anyone to go anywhere, and of course it's Ladero and Rui Diaz.
Of course.
I think they're both going to be in the States. Is that right, though? Still, so
Yes, I believe it
that's-
is.
Yeah. So
I thought it was 2.
one, Lodero's 2. I think Rui Diaz has 1, or it might be reversed. Yeah. There's a total of 3 matches between the two of them. So it's
So
not
maybe Dempsey's
as
starting.
bad.
Yeah.
Middle of the window.
Oh no, yeah, they're not going to miss any games. They're not.
Don't
They
not
should
miss
not
him.
miss any.
Okay.
As far as we can tell.
So Hunch Punch asks if we know the 2 Sounders currently on yellow card accumulation. Knew who is 1. It's probably Ozzy, which is kind of horrifying because he's played like
Yeah.
8 games.
Yeah, I want to say that he had like 2 to 3 in like his first 5 first matches that he came back, and he's been good obviously.
Yeah, so he said
since
it's
then.
not Ozzy. Someone
Oh.
said maybe Ladero is a guess.
It could be it. I mean, he gets
He's got a
the
shirt
occasional-
yellow.
Yeah, he gets the occasional questionable yellow. Well,
I don't think Alex has had that many minutes.
yeah, I do not
let
think
it
it's
go.
Alex. Yeah, I think we're fine
Not
on that.
Ladero. Dave Clark is looking it up,
And
so we'll
who
let
was
the.
it that Christian dropped 30 minutes or so into the first half when he was driving forward and just took him off the ball and like hip checked him to the ground?
I don't remember.
Their whole team stopped it.
Right.
Yeah. Plays midfield.
Was it legit
Shep?
maybe or no?
I mean,
I can't-
maybe.
I just
Rodriguez
That
hasn't
was
played
legitimate.
recently.
well, I mean, it was a
At
shoulder
least-
shoulder
and
tackle.
he hasn't gotten any yellows recently.
It's not Svensson.
He hasn't played much either, or until he got back.
Do you know who should be leading the Sounders in yellow cards? Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be an interesting dynamic too, because it's you got a lot of Spanish-speaking players, and you got a lot of English-speaking players, and then you've got Kim.
But Chad learned some Korean intentionally so they can apparently communicate. I will say that's some good bants. I'm like, even if it is Google Translate or whatever, I'm like, you're in someone's Instagram commenting, cool, in a language that you probably don't understand the characters at all.
Whatsoever.
When we
100% the case.
we went
It's
to
Jordy Dellum.
Jordy Dellum, really?
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, we're
I
good
don't
with him
really
on
have
a
anything
yellow
else to
card.
add on
Yeah.
anything else. I don't really have anything else to add on that one.
2 away is Ladero, Alonso, Roldan, McCrary.
It's a fair amount. It's a fair amount.
Go McCrary, go.
Anyway, so big match on Sunday-ish.
Yeah. I guess
Kind of
if
important.
you care about that kind of thing.
Cascadia stuff. Aside from Portland not obviously having a last good, 10 days?
Yeah.
It's only been a week. Like, it's not like it's 3 weeks over, 3 games over 3 weeks. A bad last 9-10 days. Just a different kind of scene down there right now.
They're not happy.
Yeah, I don't really know if I know what to expect.
Well,
At all.
Yeah. Like I said, I was reading that site that shall not be named, and it sounds like they ran a bunch of their players into the ground. They lost. We said they lost to DC midweek, and then they lost to Vancouver the time before.
Right.
Then DC, and then Kansas City.
Kansas City.
It sounds like they put a lot of eggs into getting a result out of DC.
And then, that game was close.
Yeah, the DC game was close. I think they lost 1-0.
4-1.
Oh, was it that? Oh, it was not close. All right, I stand corrected, 100%. But
Was that the game with the best assist of all time?
No.
No,
That was the previous game, right?
DC
That was their
game.
previous
Which,
game.
by the way, is the best assist.
Yeah, of all time.
The Rooney
Of all time.
kick. Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck you, Will Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm
I
going
will
to chase you
I will
3
accept
quarters of
this
the way
ball.
down the field.
And then somehow put it on this person.
That was
Cool.
amazing.
Anyway.
Portland was winning, and then they got blown out.
Rooney just
right,
washed
that
up
was
until he got to
Orlando.
MLS.
Yeah. So they blew out. So they played a lot of their starters midweek, hoping to get a result against DC, and then they kind of left them screwed for Kansas City, and so now a couple of their big time players have played 3 games in a week, and so they're going to be a little worse for wear against the Sounders on Sunday. I mean, they'll obviously still play because they've had a week to train,
Well,
but that's still tough to play that
and
many
beyond
games.
that, again, we've said this myriad times. Like, all bets are off for Cascadia matches.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever. It doesn't matter. You could be down 5 players and still win 3-1. It's just a different scene. There is some potential weather weird. I know it's going to be a little later in the evening, 6:30. 6:30. So what?
7 o'clock.
JJ's
7
like,
o'clock.
so 7?
Right.
Probably. Anyway, so evening start, which is, I guess, good. This time of year.
Yeah.
But maybe some heat, maybe some smoke, some ashes landing on everyone. Don't know what we're really going to get out of that. It's nice to have no matches between now and then.
Yeah.
Because we've definitely had seasons where you play the Wednesday before, halfway across the country or whatever. It's, this rivalry week bullshit. This is the first Portland match, I think, in a hot minute that I feel like the collective has gone into, feeling pretty good about it. And it's not to say even when Sounders have been bad and they play, you're kind of like, it's Portland, fuck those guys, we got this. This is like, oh, you guys suck right now and we're just stomping people? Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say it was the Oba and Deuce show. What was that, 2014, when they just ran and Oba had that incredible goal in Portland, a road victory in Portland where they just killed them the entire game. And so it feels kind of like that. again, knock on wood.
I'll allow it.
Yeah,
And-
and that would be a fun one to repeat. Absolutely. Oh, yep, and it will jump them if the Sounders beat them. So that'll be a nice
August,
little benefit.
though.
It's still time.
And, you know.
Here's one of the crazy things that I thought I saw earlier. I was on the MLS site, and they had a vote for your rivals in the rivalry week type of situation.
Yeah.
And they had the Red Bulls against NYCFC, and they had the Red Bulls against DC. It's like, aren't we
mean,
only playing one team this weekend here?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it that there's a rivalry between the Bulls and DC, but do they have to like pull the same team into the same polls?
Yes.
Yes.
They call the last day of the season Decision Day, on which the decisions that are made of are, do I put my left boot on before my right boot? Do I play? There's no decisions being made. Stupid as hell. Yeah, this is the league that brought you Decision Day, so I expect nothing less than that. But the challenge you have with stuff like saying, oh, well, Timbers could potentially be pushed below the line after this match is, the Timbers weren't necessarily the go-to in 2015 until October 18th, at which time they stomped the Galaxy 5-2. And at that moment, everyone was like, oh, they're that team this year because they made the run
At the right time.
at the right time. And I'm super okay with the Sounders starting that run in July. But, like, there's still a lot of soccer to be played. But I do think the value of not just if they stomp out the Timbers, beating the Timbers away this weekend,
It's a
I
statement.
think changes the discussion
Yeah, it's a statement.
a lot. Because I think you could almost argue, I mean, you really could, that the kind of the front end of this, like pre-run, was shortly after that Timbers match. I mean, couple weeks, right? I can't even remember at this point, but it was just like there are moments in the season, and the first half was just this blur of negativity, and then to sort of like turn the corner on the middle of the calendar year and just make a run is pretty awesome. So, if there are a couple of, exclamation points or big check marks or whatever, like this is absolutely one of them.
Well, I think we talked about there were the next four games, including the Dallas and the LA game, were games that they needed to get a decent amount of points to show that they were something better than a six seed.
Yeah.
Because if you can get, say, 9 points out of 12 or 10 out of 12 or even like 8, then the rest of your season after that, you got Vancouver, you got Houston twice, you got San Jose, you got Orlando, and so those are obviously teams that you expect to beat.
Yeah.
And so if you can get through these four, including Portland and Kansas City, then you've got, and you're in good position, then you've got the last 6 or 7 games where you should really pick up maximum points in probably six of them. So the next 2 games, obviously, for me, that'll determine if they have a chance to maybe host a game or even maybe get the bye.
Well, it just changes the discussion.
Or if you're just kind of playing for a 5th or 6th.
Well, and that's the thing now, and it was June 30, by the way, was that Portland match, which it felt further away, and I was like, oh no, it was a couple days before Colorado.
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like there's some distance between that, and I'm actually shocked to see, like, it was right before they really kicked it into high gear. At the end of the day, good on them to be able to do this. Like, it's exhausting to go through that first half of the year.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of evident yesterday in some of what you heard from Garth if you went to that Chalk Talk at the season ticket holder event at the stadium. I think there were some things people wished were discussed a little more at length that weren't. But ultimately, I will say that the team is fully aware of the stress they're putting on
the fan base, yeah.
And frankly, the players and the league, whatever you want to call it, they're fully aware of it. It's not like they're just operating, and don't really grasp what everything means. But it's an interesting point in the season, and it's not to say that if we're here a week from today and Sounders get defeated in Portland, that it's like all things are over by any means. But it will shift the momentum far more significantly than if they were to have lost to someone else. Yeah. So it'll
probably
be
the
interesting
expectations.
To see. Yeah, I think it changes the discussion.
Yeah, because that puts them 5 points behind Portland, I think, and Portland will have 2 games in hand, and you've still got 3 or what? You're still out of the playoff picture at that point. So it just it'll shift the expectations. You still expect them to make the playoffs, obviously, given that the run they're on, but maybe you're not
so
looking
weird
for
to me that they have a game at hand.
Yeah. There's only 1 game in hand right now?
One right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 game in hand. So, but
They're 24.
Yeah.
24 played.
No, 20. They're Portland's at 23. Sounders
23.
at 24.
Okay.
So it'll change things a little bit, but I don't think it'll change the trajectory of the Sounders, at least as far as getting in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice when you have. I do feel like there's something to having weeks like this where the victory actually jumps you in the standings versus leaves you where you are.
Right.
So if a couple of results happen, you make a pretty significant move in the standings. I do feel like, I don't know, maybe not the players, but the fan base, the organization, looks at that, and it's very different when you're just sort of climbing the ladder and you're still below that line or below whoever's above you. But when you can genuinely hop folks,
they could hop 3 teams.
But
if the results go right,
look at things like the Galaxy are 2 spots ahead of Sounders right now, but they've played 2 more games. To be fair. But they've let up 17 more goals. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, they've scored 17 more goals, and they've let up 21 more goals. So Sounders have let up 26, and Galaxy have let up 47.
Yeah, our
our
average per game is we give up 1.
The differential between our allowed and their allowed is significant, is almost as much as what we've let up total, which is just staggering if you really start to think about it. Yeah, and that's a team ahead of you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's obviously a function of the offensive struggles earlier in the year. So it's great to see them drop a 5 spot on the Galaxy and kind of move that
for sure,
move that needle. So,
and I think that's where now with RSL in a interesting place. It's your all-time player keeper is not playing, and you have a frankly fantastic finish to a match the other day, which if you didn't catch that, it's the same guy who tied the game buries you in added time. That's just harsh there. But Sounders can move as far as tied for 4th. Yeah. Right?
They'd have RSL on the tiebreaker, so they'd be
which is crazy
4th place
to think about.
Yeah,
just by 1-0 gets them that. Mm-hmm. So really, kind of a major change week.
I'm not sure. RSL plays Colorado, I assume.
And as anybody who's a season ticket holder goes to the Sounders matches all the time, this year has been a little bit of I expected it, rather than sitting here in June and going, what the hell is this team doing? Where are we going? Oh, my God, is this the year we're not going to make the playoffs to? Oh, it's this again. And you see that in the media everywhere. I mean, Warshaw and Weeby and all them were talking about it on MLS, and you see it in local media. You see it in national media of oh, boy, here go the Sounders again. going on the run. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to come, rolling into the very end of the season with all this momentum. You can almost feel the eye rolls from MLS.com when they were talking about it.
Yeah.
This is exactly 0 people feeling bad for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a little joy watching that hungover on Sunday morning. It was just, yes, let the hate flow through you.
Wait, you saw Sunday morning?
It was like 10:30. I had to get up.
Mickey, what'd you do on Sunday morning?
Laid in bed.
I made coffee.
I didn't even get that far.
I rewatched the match.
I need to throw Mickey under the bus because he would probably be proud of this. But we were all invited to go barbecue. You got to get yourself in here. Come on, get it. There you go.
There you go.
Can I get another?
That was
please?
really good.
Can I get a small one?
A small, as he picks up a liter.
Yeah.
Decliner.
What's the small? The half. Anyway, a number of us were invited to go just hang out and do some barbecuing yesterday. And we're all on this message thread, as basically everything in life is right now. It's like, the group message. And at like 2, Mickey chimes in and he's like, I'm not making it. I just woke up. And I looked at it just as like the push notification, and I was just like, good job, Mickey. That was impressive.
Well, I got downtown at 9 o'clock to watch the Arsenal debacle and started, having drinks.
It
at
almost
that
worked
time.
out for you, though.
Yes.
They made some moves.
That game. But anyway, so I was doing that. Then I went to the press box, laid off, didn't have anything in there. And then after the game, obviously, everyone was having a great time.
There's food,
And-
right? Like in
Yeah.
Seattle, you can get food. It's weird. You go to like restaurants.
You don't even have to go
or, like,
anywhere.
the food trucks.
People bring it to you.
Or like
I did
you go to
eat.
like
I did
DoorDash.
eat.
Off the res is a good call. It's weird though. So you get food, right? And then you eat it, and then you feel
All
better.
right, I'm going to take some notes here.
Yeah,
and I'll-
get that down.
write that down.
So anyway-
so it's eat then drink. Is what you're saying.
Or do them
Those
both
are
at the same time.
Okay.
Or drink then eat. Then you can drink more. Yeah.
Go Cougs.
Anyway, so it was a fun weekend.
Yeah.
No one perished, I think,
I
from
think I've heard from everybody that I know
like
reasonably.
the usual
Yeah.
check-ins
Yeah.
seem to have survived.
I survived Saturday night.
Do you want to tell us what you did on Saturday?
No, because I have no fucking clue.
So I'm going to tell a story with someone who may or may not be in the chat that we bumped into on Second Ave across the street from Slate Coffee, and he was walking down the street with a like kind of the larger espresso cups, and we met in the middle of the crosswalk because that's when you start a conversation. Duh. And he's like, "Don't worry, this isn't coffee." And that is when I knew it was going to be a really, really good Saturday. And I was like, but you should have coffee. And he's like, oh, I had that earlier. So, yeah, Saturday was good. All in all, super fun. So it's a little after 8:30, so we should touch on a couple different things.
We Sounders too as well.
We should definitely talk about Sounders
Early-
too.
yes.
We should touch on some rain stuff that's happening. We should definitely talk about the fact that there's a certain player on the LA Galaxy who chose to take selfies with Ed Sheeran.
Really? I missed that.
I
Yeah.
don't know who that is, actually.
So, like, I get if you don't want to play on turf, but, like, while your team's playing, you went and hung out with Ed Sheeran?
That's the ginger guy, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It just doesn't seem like a good play to me.
Yeah, it wasn't a good look. But, especially after him talking about how the team was terrible and didn't deserve to make the playoffs and was making elementary mistakes and all that kind of stuff. and then you don't play, which is, I guess, fine. But then you're out there gallivanting around with celebrities.
It just seems silly. You're like, go do that on the DL. Like, not
Yeah.
that someone won't get your photo, because they will, but
True.
you making a big deal about it changes the discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you hadn't said anything, it would have been a totally different thing.
So that idiocy happened.
What about fan fest?
I don't know. I didn't go.
I didn't go either.
I didn't go.
I don't think Bread went.
Bread definitely went.
No.
So here's what I've heard is lots of lines. Everyone had a great time. People met a lot of cool folks. I know the ECS merch table had a really good time, which is awesome. I think it's a great event. I say the same thing I said last year when we actually had an argument about this, essentially. This or the business meeting is a non-starter for me. The business meeting is far more important in the grand scheme of things. And to be honest, if you're saying you can have one or the other, I don't think this is the play. I just don't. I think they shouldn't even be considered in the same budget, ultimately. Like, they have different purposes. And could you get a far different or larger group of people for the Fan Fest than you would for the business meeting? Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not the same. And I struggle with not doing a business meeting, and that's not to say there isn't going to be one. I know people are on top of it. But the way it went down last year, more people showed up in person in the years that they were like, that was bad attendance, than streamed it live. And they always still streamed it as a follow-up. Like, you could always watch it later. So 50,000 people still got to watch it over 2 weeks. That didn't change. So it's not one of those things where you can go, oh, well, we streamed it instead. No, you streamed it anyway. It just, you chose to not have 1,000 people in the room. And I get that it's not free. And, like, things cost money, and maybe you can't justify it. But that was a moment where in the, like, thick years and the thin years, it did feel like it was a good event to have. Like,
I always enjoyed it, yeah.
it just seemed constructive, for lack of a better term. That said, like, I'll back off my soapbox for a second. It's fun to have stuff like this. It's very, like, the Mariners kind of, you know, the fan day where you go in and you get your autographs. Kids
Fest.
run the bases at FanFest, and, like, you can pick your season tickets out, like, literally pick the seats out. Like, there's cool shit. Like, that's great that Sounders get to do that. I think they do a good job at anything like that.
Oh, God.
I don't even know what just happened, but I'm going to finish this.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, so I just got distracted. I'm going to come back. So good event idea. A lot of people appear to have gone. It's a great way to get some high touch time with players and fans and FO, and there's the Chalk Talk and other stuff. So keep doing it. But to me, it serves a different purpose than other stuff. Thanks. It's a lot of carbs.
Are you still on the keto diet, Tom?
I am.
Oh, goody.
It's you get two.
Just remember, you know,
Oh, sorry. I thought you had
liquor, no carbs. Yeah.
One. Are we drinking this?
Uh,
Cool.
Sure?
Salud.
Here,
See the
here's the
Sounders?
5 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 goals.
Clinky, clinky, clink, 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 clink.
Clinky, clinky.
Salud.
Drinky.
Coog.
That's good stuff.
Oh. So anyway,
Jolly Rancher in there?
good deal. Keep
That's
up
actually quite
the good work, Sounders. At the end of the day, outlier, me being smug doesn't really matter. It's about, like, figuring out the things that matter to make the community better. So the more they try and learn, to my liking or not, or to our liking or not, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's like they're continuing to try and figure it out. That is, I mean,
That is the
That's a
opposite
small beer.
of a small.
That's the Kleina.
This is not
Can I see
what
the
was-
Grossa, please?
wait, hold on. This
It's-
one has slightly less. Do
Yeah.
you want me to switch them?
Yeah. That is not what I was expecting. In case you can't see it.
You know what? I'll cheers you to public transportation.
Yes. I'm not driving. Yeah.
So moving on. So rain dash tomorrow night. I really hope
Maybe.
for their sake, that the smoke dissipates significantly. It's really funny, like knowing people in the medical profession, some of which are in this room right now, but there are people in ECS and other groups that, when the conversations came up about, oh, we're going to have 9,000 water breaks and we're going to have oxygen and we're going to have this, and they're like, in theory, that does help. Well, like the oxygen gives you 2 minutes of comfort.
Yeah.
Over drinking water actually makes it worse when you're talking about something like inhaling, particles. But for the players and the fans' health, like, I really hope they can change something here, because I know it's like just before the playoff moment here. Kind of crazy that this is still what we're talking about right now, but big deal. Rain tomorrow, 7:30 dash
They clinch a playoff
at
spot
Memorial.
if they
yes,
win.
if they win. Rain are a lot of fun. At the end of the day, if you feel comfortable going out tomorrow, you should go. This is the time, absolutely, to go. Kind of make it happen. I think it's. I'm pleased that they've figured out their next season situation.
Yeah.
Love or hate Memorial doesn't matter. I'm glad
They
they
got a good
solved
place to
it,
play, yeah.
because the fact of the matter is like it's August and they didn't know. Well, we didn't know where they were going to be playing. 6 months from now, they're staying at Memorial one more season.
At least one more season.
At least one more season.
Could be
so
more.
I thought it was 2.
so is what it is, and then they play again on Saturday. They play North Carolina, Fan Appreciation Day.
That's a big game,
so
actually.
It's fan appreciation time all the time at Rain. If you go, you meet players at the end of the pitch every single week. So you can only imagine that for actual fan appreciation match, they up the ante significantly.
Yeah.
So it would be great, especially if people are not traveling to Portland over the weekend, or even if you are, you can actually catch that, still go down to Portland, still have a good time down there, and then catch the Sounders on Sunday evening. So big week for the Rain, really.
Yeah. Like I say, clinch the playoff spot. I think they're in second right now overall.
I believe
in the overall standings.
it is.
And so, obviously, getting a win over Houston, I think Houston's behind them,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
Houston is,
Yeah.
and they and then they play North Carolina
Yeah.
over the weekend, who's already played its 22nd game.
Yeah, and they can't catch North Carolina. They're
right.
blowing everybody away.
Significantly ahead, 16 points up.
Yeah. I don't think that's doable. In
With
one
a
game.
scary 31 goal differential. For clarity, Sounders have led up 26 this season.
And the goal diff is...
The goal differential for the Courage is 31. Yeah. So, cool. Anyway, so big soccer week for Seattle teams, which is great. We didn't really touch on S2. No victory a couple days ago or yesterday.
Yesterday,
That
yeah.
was yesterday.
Last
Versus
night.
T2. However, there's some youth
Utes.
showing out.
Utes.
Some Utes.
Did you say Ute?
Did you say Utes? Utes.
You should play that video.
Why, yes, Herman Munster, I
Deleted
did
from
say
the internet,
Ute.
probably.
Perfect.
Did you say Utes? Anyway, so I think we're at an interesting moment with S2 where I'm hoping by the end of the season we get a little bit of a progress report on what's going to happen from a branding perspective.
Yes.
Frankly, how they're going to work things from the contracts perspective and whatnot, because I do feel like changing a name is going to change that dynamic maybe dramatically.
Well, it'd also be nice if we got an update on the stadium progress, because from what I've heard, that's kind of those things go hand in hand
For sure.
from a branding perspective. So even if they don't have shovels going in the ground, at least it'd be nice to know a timeline for getting the place built.
Well-
if they got the approvals that they need.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Everything I've heard, and I work with the city of Tacoma and Metro Parks and a couple of other groups. So, like, I don't know insider information, but I know that they have progress.
Yeah.
And that it is a priority for Tacoma, and definitely for the Rainiers. And I'm wondering if it's one of those shoes need to drop for the other shoes to drop. And that maybe the sort of naming, which I expected, frankly, to come out by now, for them to have said, yeah, this is coming, whether they announce what it is or not. But, like, for there to be some timing, or for, like, hey, we're going to have this celebration on this date, or groundbreaking, or whatever the heck it is. Because they definitely had put out their RFP for groundwater, this, and, like, all sorts of things. So the cool thing is they actually have the space and a great little complex to have some neat things there in Tacoma. It'll be interesting to see, though, if that has potentially affected the rain situation, because it is a little coincidental. I actually expected Rain to play UW for next season. I thought there was a decent chance for that to happen. So and maybe it's just everything's coincidental, and Memorial decided to change the timeline, and it's school districts and government funding and all sorts of other stuff. But it's interesting.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get an update. There hasn't really been one in 6 months ish on that score, so it seems about time to get an update and see where things stand. So,
and then there's that other team that we really don't care about, but may or may not be playing in the northern part of the Eastern time zone or the southern part of the Central time zone next season, who decided today, well, they probably decided yesterday, to send their season ticket renewal packages out.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Oh,
And that team is the Columbus Crew.
that's kind of a kick squaw in the nuts.
And it felt to me like
Both
this
of
is
them.
one of those, there probably is some sort of agreement of when they have to send them out in relation to the end of a regular season or from your previous contract or whatever that is. Like, they probably had to do it. I'm guessing. But there is some weird, like, deposit things and stuff they were asking for that's, like, super shitty.
25% non-refundable.
And you're like, when you say non-refundable,
it is 100%.
You can go to the
refundable.
stadium and there might not be a team there, but you'll have a ticket.
cool.
Yeah, it's 100% refundable because that's like step one to get
have to.
your sued, get your ass sued off for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on the Save the Cruise front, they put out their season ticket deposit thing. People have until September, late September, to opt out. You're
that's
automatically
probably-
in. You have to opt out. So.
But it's not like us where, like, our first payment is, like, the 2nd or 3rd of September, or 4th.
Yeah.
Is it the 1st? So
Oh
right
my God, I'm
before
going to
Labor
make
Day.
payments?
The cruise is like the 19th or something like that, and that's when they start taking them. They have put in a little caveat that says if the team is not playing at Matt Free Stadium, then obviously everything will be refunded back. The other interesting thing was that I heard from a little birdie that they had the front office had a meeting last week after the Austin vote that basically said that the vote in Austin does not have any material effect on the crew at this point, and that everyone should keep doing their jobs as they are currently doing them. So that's something to take into account. And then I'm also hearing that there is a meeting of some sort set for this week. Well, we'll get a little more clarity on the situation. As I've been trying to find out what the status of the negotiations is, for lack of a better word, whether it's positive, negative, or kind of in the middle, because the whole thing is sealed. I can't get any real good information, but from what I've heard, at least, we'll probably get some more information later this week on what the status is. And things could definitely go sideways. Things could definitely go sideways after this week once we get an update. So stay tuned for the end of the week. And then,
So what about that vote today?
What vote?
Wasn't there a thing in Austin about like not giving?
Oh no, that's Nashville, which is apparently.
I'm sorry, it was Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville's apparently
Everything
teetering.
this afternoon today was like, oh, that's right. It's like, oh, no private land for you, and then this thing's a disaster or whatever.
Nashville. I mean, what happened today is basically two of the subcommittees to give you your civics lessons for today. Two of the subcommittees in the Nashville thing recommended against granting the leases that they need, but those subcommittees, number one, they're not binding, and number two, it's only a percentage of the entire council. Right. So yeah, sure, 6-5 may vote to say no. No ground lease should be granted, but when it goes to the full council and there's like 40 members, that just means it could go 36-5.
It could be a posturing vote from one or two of the elected officials. Just I said no in the committee, but
there's
comes out at the end of the day.
What I read, a significant chunk of the anti-MLS folks are on that committee, and since it isn't binding, it doesn't really mean anything. So I still expect it to pass, but at least that's a little. That would be I don't even know what MLS would do if the Nashville thing fell apart at this point. That would be
how could they
blunder.
Possibly let that happen?
It's MLS.
Aren't they set 2020 in Nashville?
Yeah, Nashville's 20 is coming in 2020. They're going to play in a temporary venue for 2 years, I think, or maybe 1 year, assuming that they can get the construction started this year. Then they would, in theory, have their stadium in 2021. So it's only 1 year of a temporary venue, so that's not a big deal. But and there's some votes going tomorrow, so that should be interesting. I'm not going to live blog those. That was
come on.
Sounds like a terrible use of my time. So I will just look for the results of that. So we'll see what happens on that. Again, I expect it to pass. I think this is kind of just posturing, as you said.
Yeah.
But it's up there for a potential disaster. But MLS seem to have gotten they seem to have gotten over the line with many of these votes. They got the Austin one over the line, and they got the Miami one over the line.
I think you're seeing a lot of city governments that are coming to the realization that this is the future of American sports. And do you want to be the guy on the city council that killed the deal to bring the team to your town?
Well, and the problem is that MLS doesn't have the cachet of like NFL or anything like that, which kind of goes to your point.
Yeah.
But
did you just say cachet in NFL?
Yes.
I just want to clarify.
So we'll see. That's kind of what's going on in the crew thing. They next week they're supposed to have their next progress report on how settlement negotiations are going on the 30th or 31st. So we'll see what happens there. And then the motion to dismiss is on the 4th, which I will be out in Columbus to cover.
Really?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I've never been to Ohio,
Columbus in the summer.
Have a spaghetti and oil meat for me.
Can I tell a little story here that my father moved us out to Columbus from California when I was about 3 years old.
Like on purpose?
Yes, to work for the Rockwell. In fact, out there, he was a defense contractor, and we made it through about 2 years in Columbus before my father came home one day and looked at all of us and said, "Hell no, we're moving back to the Bay Area." We moved back to Santa Clara. But I remember from a very young age. Specifically stuck in my mind because as a 4-year-old I got to miss Halloween because my mom and dad went to an Ohio State game that just happened to be playing on Halloween night.
The
so no
Ohio State University,
and they can suck the dick. Sean Wise here. Yeah. Yeah.
They can
Did I
suck.
say that? I'm sorry. Did we have
They
no
can
swearing
suck-
rule?
They can
The
suck
dick.
We actually-
the dick.
Are proactively about swearing.
They can suck.
So
the
I just
dick.
wasn't prepared for that.
Specific.
Capital T,
The dick.
the.
Oh.
Next week on SonarFeed, Sean Wise tells us about
The dick.
Grandma.
Don't we have a vote coming up ourselves?
We have a vote.
When is it?
Actually, coming soon. Apparently, they discussed it yesterday. I didn't hear any recap about it. I was under the impression that we would be hearing something from Sounders either this week or next.
They pushed it at the fan.
Yeah.
They were really pushing vote.
Well,
Garth was very nice to talk to.
I'll bet he was.
weird. Do you know what's not binding? That. So,
We'll take it under
at
advisement.
the end of the day, it's a vote that requires like a supermajority, so a pretty significant vote for it to even be considered. Love Garth or hate Garth, I genuinely hope people vote just because I would like to see it happen from a sports standpoint. You know, Sounders or not. It's just a unique thing. And we haven't really been in a position where it's been anyone except someone everyone loves. So it's,
Adrian and Garth, yeah.
you know, you're now looking at someone that was an outsider previously, who, frankly, the team's making a run at the right time. And it's just, do you trust this person with the future? And,
Yeah.
you know, when it comes to the academy and genuinely the kids in the future, yeah, I think any sane person would say yes to that. However, the trick is like, what are your expectations for the team? And right now, I think there's things like U.S. Open Cup and, I don't know,
Supporter Shield.
March, April, May, June, and part of July, among other things that there are concerns about. But the average fan, I guess I just don't know if that's something they stress out about or not, or has the average fan lived through so many Mariners seasons and so many Seahawks seasons and so on, they are like, well, it's 34 games. As long as we end up, you know, net out positive at the end, I'm okay with that. And that's not wrong at all. So to me, it's really about like getting people to participate. And I think the scarf votes and stuff, like, you do see participation on. But to me, the scarf vote's easy. So if anything, the scarf vote may get more attention than something like this, because that's fun and interesting, and people are like, yeah, I want that scarf with orcas on it or sunsets or whatever it might be. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get the attention for the GM vote that maybe we like.
He has two jobs. One you can vote out and one you can keep. So,
I mean, don't we all want to be the president of soccer? Like, even if it's like the president of soccer for left-handed people sitting at that picnic table during, you know, Saturday afternoon beer drinking, like, that's totally worth being the president of soccer.
he said
So-
if he got voted out, he wasn't going to be the president again.
I mean, and in that case, it might be he just chooses not to be, because they don't have to do anything about it. Anyway, it is an interesting thing.
Yeah. I find it hard to believe he'd be voted out at this point.
I would be
so,
shocked.
Yeah.
Without the last 60 days, last 30 days, well, these 30 days, he's fine.
Yeah.
The previous 30, you're like, meh, draws. Who cares?
Yeah.
But right now, you know, I'd be very surprised if it was as negative as it might have been 2 months ago. But yeah, another cool, fun thing, you know, we get to do in Soundersland. You know, an interesting next month or so of soccer.
Yeah.
The matchups are decent, or frankly, looking in the Sounders' favor for who they have to play against. I don't know.
run.
Seahawks' attention is kind of up and down. Like, what, 60% of the players everyone has loved for the last decade are gone. Yeah, and that's before you get to John Ryan today.
The only Seahawk player I actually really liked.
You know, Felix. How many home runs did Felix give up tonight? Just one?
One or two.
Rough time for other Seattle sports right now. So, if anything, Sounders have picked the right moment to roll because people are going to be like, "Oh, that's the hot ticket. Yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. I am in," which is fun.
Definitely. That's all I really had.
Do you want to throw out some more exclamations?
No.
Okay. So, it's a little after 9. We would ask you a shitload of questions right now, but we're not gonna because it's 9:02. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask you 2 questions. One, go-to karaoke song.
Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce.
Damn.
I'm definitely requesting that for you. That's one.
That was the whole reason for that
that's
question.
a really good
You're gonna
shout.
be on the
I'm
mic in a minute.
super impressed. And 2, prediction for Sunday.
Oh, yes. Good call.
I'm going to say that Clint Dempsey is going to come on as a sub and score a third goal where the Sounders win 3-1 in PDX.
Good call. Mickey?
The other goals are going to come from Ruidíaz. And I'm going to go with Chad Marshall on another set-piece header.
God, this is a tough one. But I will. I do not think Dempsey will play, but I still think the Sounders can pull one out. So I'm going to say 2-1 to the Sounders in PDX.
I was also going to say 3-1, and I'm going to say Ladero, Brace, and Christian Roldan.
Oh, I will go with a Ruidíaz brace.
Wow. I
Telling
can
you.
totally see him wanting to smoke Portland, though.
That's kind of where I'm. That's kind of where I'm going.
I want to see
Mark?
Dempsey weasel his way into the 18 still after
Right?
all this injury and stuff.
He's
And
like,
just, show
no,
up on
I'm
the-
good.
Dempsey's in the 18?
I'm going to say fuck it. 4-0. Dempsey hat trick.
Love you, Mark.
And then what? Own goal?
No, and then Ruidíaz. So while I was at this
Dempsey
wedding,
Off of Audie's nuts.
Dempsey
into the goal.
Dempsey hat trick in the last 20 minutes.
yeah,
Sorry, Audie's not there anymore.
yeah. No, we were at this wedding on Saturday, and there's no reception up there for AT&T. More bars and more places, or something like that. Anyways,
Keep going.
so my buddy had a Verizon phone, and it happened to have service, and I was like, dude, what's the score of the game? I have to know. He's like, I'm not looking that up. I'm going to get a bunch of soccer notifications. I'm like, you'll be okay. Just look up the fucking score. He goes, well, what do you think the score is? And I was like, I don't know. 5-0. He looked it up. No shit. 5-0. And I was like, are you kidding?
I believe you were one of 3 people
Yes.
to properly say 5-0, which is horrifying. Or amazing, I guess.
I
Well,
was impressed.
I mean,
it,
it's
co-
just-
it cost me a shot.
It's just soccer, Greg.
It was a good shot, though.
So
Shout out to Emily Cummings.
2 things. Speaking of Emily Cummings, 2 things. 1, cat scarves. 2, we are definitely making white wine ultras rosé casuals scarves.
Yes.
They're currently in design mode, and they will be up for pre-sale relatively soon. So get in.
You know, she really should have a podcast.
Yeah. And it's amazing. And she's
Comings
like,
and going.
Comings and goings.
just unplug it.
Cat going in and out of the apartment video.
Exactly. I love that she walks her cat.
I don't even know what to say right now.
Hi, Emily.
Oh, and the other thing is, we have Eileen. How many tickets we have left?
I don't know, my phone died.
100-ish, 150-ish tickets for Sunday.
Really?
40.
It turns out people aren't a big fan of 7 o'clock on
Weird,
fucking
though.
Sunday.
We sold like 100 tickets since the game.
You know, it was a lot of fun, though, last year
Interesting.
when we did this, when I drove by the Sounders bus and honked my horn and all the players were
Yeah.
slapping the
They
glass as
love
I
that.
drove by I-5. Yeah.
And then Matt Oak moons them, and
Yeah.
then it gets weird.
Yeah.
Well,
it
anyway,
always
As it
gets a
usually
little
does.
So we have 100 and change tickets. I think they're 48-ish dollars for Portland on Sunday. But it's actually a really big weekend. Supporters Cup is taking place on Saturday. Most of the afternoon and early evening over on the east side of Portland. We've upped the ante for ECS FC on what we had a couple of years ago. There's actually a food truck, beer garden, a bunch of cool stuff. So apparently they actually have a roster of players for their game. So there's a over 40. There's a men's 2, the women's and the men's 1 matches. So it's the better part of the day, and then there's a pretty cool party happening that night. But a lot of people complained and said there's no food, there's no beer, and there's no this, and we figured that out. So that's all happening on Saturday, which is a great time. And then obviously Sunday evening is the match. So if you are still looking for a ticket, they are still available, and we would love to have you. And that's all I got.
Yeah.
Do you know how I turn this off?
Sean knows.
Just
I'll
close,
get you
close the
good.
computer. That'll do it.
So anyway, thanks again to the Berliner Pub for hosting as always.
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting me sit in for a minute.
Thanks, Sean Wise, for dipping in and sharing some knowledge.
That
and
Maxicino's full of shit.
Maxicino, maybe he went to the other Berliner in Tacoma.
Yes. The one in downtown Seattle.
Anyway, Mickey Turner, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey.
Mark, thanks for keeping us on the internet.
We made it happen.
Right. I was a little scared there.
Somehow
for a minute
we're
there.
alive.
We made it happen.
Well done. Well done.
And 2 things. 1, don't go outside.
Like
And,
us idiots.
Yeah.
2, see you Sunday at Sounders Timbers.
It's raining ash, and we're undercover.
It's still
It's
sneaking
still
through.
sneaking
Yeah,
in
it
here.
did
Yeah.
not help at all.
Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Thanks
Night,
y'all
everyone.
for coming. Good night, Mark.
Booyah.